Welcome to SouthPod, the first and foremost podcast created to tell the true story of tech innovation in the American South. SouthPod is hosted by John Yarian and Stanfield Gray and produced by Dig South Tech Media. Dig South Tech Media is the South's tech hub, the place where leading global brands connect with the most scalable startups. Visit us at digsouth.com and follow us on social media at Dig South. This episode of SouthPod was recorded as a part of the Dig South 2020 Virtual Tech Summit. It featured keynote speakers Abby Leibowitz of Call Experts and Jonathan Williams of Theorem. Now let's dig into SouthPod with Abby Leibowitz and Jonathan Williams.
I'm very excited to be joined by my guests, and you, in fact, the audience, are part of this keynote yourself. So the three of us are going to be chatting about three important questions, but then you also will have the opportunity, as this progresses, to go live and share in a minute your answers to how you, in your own domain, are addressing some of these challenges here that we're facing. So let's go ahead and bring Abby and Jonathan to the screen here. Hey, y'all! This is I don't know. There's something so fun about it. Like, if we were in person, there probably wouldn't be a sheet of paper on the wall behind you that has "Go Big and Go Home" written on it in handwriting, and so I get that experience that I wouldn't have otherwise gotten. So let me go ahead and start with you, Abby, if you wouldn't mind, just for our audience, introducing yourself, and Jonathan, I'll do the same, just so we're all on the same page, and then we'll go from there. So take it away, Abby.
Sure, glad to be here. Hope everyone's enjoying these Dig South sessions, and I love seeing everyone's ability to adjust and openness to change. So I think that's the theme of the day. And Abby Leibowitz, CEO of Call Experts. We are an outsourced customer service company. So bunch of agents taking customer service processing, and other companies outsource that to us. That's what we do.
Nice. And Jonathan, aside from having the dopest microphone setup, which nobody can not comment on, what tell us a little bit about yourself.
KRP in Cincinnati. No, just aging myself a bit there. I run the strategic account group for Theorem, and Theorem is a product innovation technology strategy company. So, we're fortunate enough to do a lot of custom software. So from some of the most admired companies in the world.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So I'm just going to run through the three questions that we're going to be covering so that the audience has these fresh in their minds. And then, Abby, I'm going to start with you with one of these. So before we get started, folks that are joining us in the audience, we're going to be talking about what is your company's best strategy or solution for handling the impacts of the pandemic. I don't know if you guys have heard, but that's a thing right now. And number two, how is your company addressing diversity challenges? And then three, what are some good strategies for encouraging pay equity among employees? So I want everyone in the audience to be thinking about those three questions. You can leave a comment in the chat if you'd like us to make you live so you can share from your own life for a minute. And make sure that you've got at least your microphone on, if not your video as well, so that we'll be able to do that. So thank you guys all. And let's get started. Abby, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of, you're in a unique position here with when it relates to responding to the pandemic. So what has your company's response been in terms of a strategy and solution for handling the pandemic? We were chatting earlier, and I'm just really intrigued for everybody to hear what you were sharing.
Sure. So, we already were an outsourced provider. So we've just been, for the most part, very grateful that we're here when a lot of other industries are struggling. So already we're outsourced. It just was an opportunity to know our clients need us more than ever and do what we do. But now everyone does it from home and do it even better. So the strategy was be there for our customers, be able to change, be flexible, recommend the best practices that we were seeing from other clients. Like, everyone was kind of coming together and saying, what should we do? We're saying, okay, here's what we recommend. We got you. Here you go.
Yeah.
So really just moving everyone from home and doing the same things and making sure our communication was spot on and proactive.
Yeah. I mean, you make it sound easy. Like, oh yeah, we just did it. But this is typically the kind of thing that would take months. So you would have lead time. You would have assign like a lead to the project to scope out, half a dozen different tech solutions.
Right.
What was the time frame that you went through that transition? 18 months, 24 months? How long did you have?
So since we're a disaster company for some people, and we're 24/7, and we're anyway, part of our business strategy is that we do have to be open 24/7, 365, some years 366, as we know, and we always have to be available for that challenge, right? In Charleston, South Carolina, you wouldn't think, but we might have a hurricane, we might have a snowstorm, and now we have a pandemic. So we're always
you should work for the tourism board with a pitch like that. That's really
we can take those. We can screen our
Jonathan is already booking a flight.
It's exciting here. So we already have technology to do it, and we had been playing with the idea of work from home always. There are call centers that are from home, but there was this stigma, this taboo, and we typically got a lot of business by being in-house, like by being one of the ones who had the flexibility and combination of both, but really did have agents at home, more observation, more teamwork. So we benefited from that as other companies went to work from home. Now, all of a sudden, nobody cared about that anymore. They were just grateful. We're open. Everyone saw, well, I do fine from home. Maybe I don't mind if my vendor does it from home too. Mm-hmm. So we like to plan things out carefully. We've thought about it, but we would have taken probably 18 months to test every technology, to communicate to our customers, to take steps to test. And instead we got to say, throw it out the window and let's just go for it.
Yeah.
Everyone was grateful and patient. And so we took, in a very challenging time, we took the opportunity that we saw to do something we had wanted to do it quickly. While people really pull together anytime there's something different that's affecting everyone, and using that for like making things better and improving. So we're leaner, our communication's better. It's equalized when you're all from home. Sometimes people on other sites, now everyone's the same. Everyone communicates the same way with the headquarters. So
that's a good point.
We did it in 3 days, basically. So 72 hours.
3 days, man. What did it feel like? I mean, you're the CEO. What did it feel like when that question of what do we do, it came to you? That must have been quite a moment. I mean, you've been through many, like you described, it's not the first time, but this is a dramatic move. And all of a sudden everybody's just like, Abby, what do we do?
Yeah.
Man.
You have to do it.
Yeah.
It was a really clear one this time. There's been times where you make judgment calls and weigh things, but when this came up in March, knowing that we would have to be ready and there and couldn't have any downtime, this is what has to happen. Yeah. So it actually was easier.
Man. That's
neat. Time?
No. Yeah, that's my subtle. Yeah. Well, I'd like to stay on this question for a second, Jonathan, and just get some of your take on what you've seen, just what companies that you've been involved with have done well in responding to this, and what are some mistakes that you've seen made, if any, that you've observed?
Ooh. It's been interesting. I'm sure it's been an interesting ride for all of us. One of the things that's been fascinating, though, is watching how much additional grace we extend towards each other. The things that we've always been a bit more uptight about or sticklers about, we're forced now, to reconcile with our own challenges that we face working from home and working and living in the same place, but those of our colleagues, and their situations are different. The best example I can share with you, we do some work with the Air Force. Air Force has some amazing groups like Kessel Run, which is completely modernizing much of our combat fighting and F-35 deployment program. We've done a lot of work with Kessel Run, AFWorks, and it was fascinating talking to some of those folk, working from home, where you got a very, buttoned up, you're dealing with the airport.
Yeah.
Code, you talk to that same person, but they've got a newborn. They live in an apartment. They can't hide. You can't, if any of you have children, you can't hide from a newborn. So
Yeah.
that was early days, and it really let me know that all of us are in this together. We all have those type of constraints. So watching how they were able to do that with their workforce, that was impressive. The other one that is going to, I guess, be a little shocking was we do a ton of work with Apple. And Apple has a very, I want to see you, feel you, culture. They do, because everything, the experience matters so much, and what they end with, the end product, has so many people involved with it. They're incredibly used to working on site, and that's a deep expectation. But watching them adjust to getting more comfortable, working from home, and as a result, like the type of work that they're coming to us for, over the last few months, has been reflective of the change that's been happening there. There were teams that were unwilling to work with remote first companies like us.
Yeah.
They've seen the outcomes that we've gotten over the years for Apple with this model, and they're like, we need these high-end outcomes, but we know we're not going to have an army in our campus anytime soon. So,
yeah,
it's really like, Joel, watching these large organizations begin to put their feet into something that is very different than what they've done in the past. I've also been impressed too with general leadership of many of these companies. This is unprecedented. Like, we don't have any, in our lifetime, we don't have any point of comparison where everyone in the world is going through some form of this. And to see many of the corporate leaders that I've been privileged to work with respond with their people's best interest in mind, it's just been inspiring.
Yeah. Yeah, I can chime in on that. I will say, one lesson as a business owner myself that 2020 has forced me to learn, and it's something that I would have always said, but it has forced me to put that into practice, is to truly prioritize community and the well-being of others ahead of my own personal business interests. And that's at times you think, I mean, academically, a year ago, we would all have said, yeah, I would never do anything that put the public at risk just to keep my business afloat. But now in 2020, we are, to varying degrees, all being asked to put our money where our mouth is in that regard. And it's really fascinating. I'm curious, going back to you, Abby, and just kind of staying on the epidemic. Are there any things to continue with this positive side of it? Are there things that you have done in response that you think will continue, even if things are back to normal, quote unquote, like changes at Call Experts that will remain in place?
There are. I do think we'll stay in this model. At least we'll always offer this model now, since it works. There's no reason to not. We are a lot more engaged in checking in with all the different teams, because it's easier to pop in and out of a Zoom with different groups than sometimes it was to go to other sites or to other buildings. So we want to keep that communication open. And I think really what really came out of it is what's really necessary for us to do and what's not, right? So really assessing everything, what's a must-have, what's a nice to have, and we should stay that way, right? I do believe that over time, if we don't provide the most value, someone else will come in and do it. So we need to do everything we can in the most efficient way and do it the best we can. And those are the companies that are going to survive and the ones who can adapt to change. And we should definitely keep doing that. So
yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I'm gonna try here. Let's give this you are the keynote a test together. I feel like Ernest has a question in the Q&A that I want to put him on the spot and make him go live. Ernest, I see you got your mic on, you got your camera on. I'm coming to you live to share a little bit more of the thoughts that you put there in the Q&A.
Thanks. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, welcome.
Hey.
Thank you. So I'm here in my virtual booth. Feel free to come by Startup Alley and learn more about Shandoka motorcycles. But we're an early stage startup. We're just reaching out for like our first round of funding. And during the COVID was when my team actually really grew. And I intentionally went out looking for diversity, looking for people that were not a white guy with blonde hair like me. So I've got some women, I've got New Yorkers, I've got some people of color, I've got just a range of folks now that are really helping me take this to that next level. And as part of the mental health challenge was making sure that at least once a week I try to touch base with each of those folks, let them know what the stage is that I'm working on, because I'm doing so much more that they're not part of each little step along the way as the founder. So I try to make sure that everybody knows what our options are going forward, how we're pivoting to deal with the future of COVID positive world, and just trying to make sure that everybody still understands that I'm valuing them, even though there's not a lot for them to do at the moment.
Yeah, you're awfully thoughtful. A question for you, in your world, I have to imagine when you were looking ahead at 2020, you were picturing, I want to be in person with human beings sitting on motorcycles.
Oh, yeah.
And that I feel like hasn't happened as much. So how are you at your stage in the startup process continuing to do business development when people are reluctant to meet in person to ride a physical object?
Well, it was really tough because March 12th, the day before the pandemic was declared, we had an event and people were sitting on the motorcycles and on the scooters and they were all loving them. And that had been an 8-month process to get to that first event. And I had 3 months of events lined up and none of them available anymore. So that made it really, really big challenge. So I'm looking now at creating some safe ride events where people can join us at a parking deck or a non-street location, and just a few people at a time that I know from a safety standpoint are COVID okay, and then live streaming that, or at least recording it and turning it into a playback type of event. So that way people get that feedback of somebody else being on my machine and enjoying it, and that person becomes an advocate that's in that experience of watching them ride it. So it's vicarious life right now. Everybody's experiencing other people through a video screen. So if we can tell it in a better way and get another person to experience it, then that's given me some strength of concept there, I think.
And as the owner of an electric powered product, how often do you get the song "Electric Slide" stuck in your head? How many sentences do you finish? It's electric, funky, wonky, wonky, wonky. Because that is, to me, that would be the hardest part of your job.
Yeah, there's that, and there's like all the natural puns that happen. Like I'm trying to stay current on all of the things that are happening in the world, and I'm getting really charged up for what we're those type of things happen. But yeah, it's that, and then one of my marketing partners that's coming on board soon is the guy who started. He did Breakin' and Breakin' 2 movies, and he's the founder of Street Dance, Electric Boogaloo.
Oh, goodness.
So the Boogaloo term started showing up in the collective consciousness for a different reason. And he had the exact right outlook on it when he and I talked about it. He said, "Look, man, as long as people are talking about it, it's a good thing. Just because they don't understand that the Boogaloo in the film was about fighting the power and protecting the poor people of the community, that's cool, man. Just go with the Boogaloo. Let people talk about it. As long as they're talking about it, they're thinking about it. Yeah. And it's a positive thing no matter what." So, yeah, like Electric Slide and Here Comes the Power, and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
It's always there.
Yeah, it's shocking, I'm sure.
See what you did there.
You can't stop once you're going.
Winner.
Yeah. Well, Ernest, thank you so much for popping in. You are brave. If this were a live event and I had something to throw to you, maybe I'll try and throw Stan's pineapple all the way to where you are, so you can have that. But thank you so much, and everybody else that's watching, follow Ernest's lead, and holler at us in the chat if you'd like to join the keynote. All right, thanks a lot, Ernest.
See you, Ernest.
And with that, I'd actually like to do a little transition while folks are allowing their creative juices to flow, and talk to you, Jonathan, about another question that is on a lot of people's minds, and that's around how the last couple of months have called one thing out quite clearly, and that is that there is a lack of diversity across many companies. We've known this for years, but we've just had an opportunity where there was mental space as a society to confront it, and it's a thing that we can talk about now, and in a way that everybody is kind of on the same page and ready for. So I was wondering if you could speak to just how your company or others are addressing the diversity challenge, quote unquote.
Yeah, great question. And I really loved Ernest's comment there. So Ernest, please put something in the comments or find me or something. I'd love to find out more how you guys are approaching finding great people. As an organization, like the first thing we do is begin to realize that we had to do better. That's before the last few months. I'd say that was apparent. Pretty much any of us in technology recognize that our organizations are overwhelmingly men, and it's frequently white men. I think
I grew a mustache just to add some diversity.
Just to shake it up.
Otherwise, I look like everyone else.
I got the white showing in my beard.
Hey, we're both doing our part. We're doing our part.
But I think the first thing is we knew we had to do better, and we didn't want to pat ourselves on the back, as a company. Theorem is a largely male-driven company and is a largely white male-driven company. But we didn't want to pat ourselves on the back for where, that we knew we had to do better. We wanted to be somewhat intentional. So a couple of things began to happen. One, within our people and our resource team, one of our lead recruiters, we brought on a African-American woman. She is, and the reason for that was not because, okay, great, we get to check her off our list. It's that we wanted someone to help us look in places that we weren't looking. And we wanted someone to be a bit more intentional, highlight like communities and avenues of the people that we want to be reflected in our organization, that we can go out and find them. Because we are a remote first company, that gives us a bit of flexibility in finding people, but you also can get lost on, we are geographically diverse. Mm-hmm. So our people are all over the world. But so we've had to get more intentional, and on the staffing side, we've gotten a lot more targeted. Another comment I'd want to make on that is we've had a lot more discussions. And I'll say last year, I'll never forget this. Last year, I was on Apple's campus, and I happened to be there on Juneteenth. And so I can say that on this call now, and Juneteenth, more of you guys are going to know what it is.
Yeah.
But Apple, last year I began to feel a shift that people begin to understand what Juneteenth was. And Apple, they had a big concert, they brought in big acts, they had a whole bunch of things. And it was on and Apple's corporate put it on a lot of their employees' calendars just to say, hey, it's Juneteenth.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but a lot of folks just were unsure about it. So I was in meetings and like, man, what is this? And what it did was it fostered conversation. So that evening, though, I rode in a car from Apple's campus to San Francisco because we like to visit their big retail locations. And we had this whole conversation as an organization, within the car of Theorem employed people discussing what Juneteenth was. Yeah. And so now this year, you fast forward in the midst of...
Wait, you're talking about last year, that conversation?
We did that last year. That happened last year. You fast forward, and this year you can multiply that, and it was wonderful. Like people were asking questions, it was very engaging. You fast forward to now, we have these coffee breaks. So it dynamically is on my calendar. Every week I have 1 or 2 coffees with some of my colleagues, and right in the lead up to Juneteenth and right after it, all of those same conversations were percolating. What's going on? Are there ways, I'm talking to my colleague in Italy, are there ways that I can support this uprising that's happening? And so it was just powerful in that sense, Joe, that Theorem has created a place where these conversations, like one that happened last year in the car, is amplified throughout our organization.
I love it.
Yeah, and I really think it's reflective of the true power of what you want in a technology organization. That true technology is democratized. It is distributed amongst people through transparency and conversation, and we embrace that. And what it also does is you embrace that, and it leads to really purposeful conversation around a whole host of topics.
That's great to hear. I also one of the things that I hear people say is, well, let's see what next Juneteenth looks like.
Yeah.
Let's see how many people are as revved up about Juneteenth next year as they are this year, and that is an exciting challenge to me. That's like I take that as that's great. Let's put a checkpoint, and I'm going to do something just real quick, folks in the audience. I'm going to give you an opportunity to chime in with a quiz. And right after I bring this quiz up, Abby, I'm going to turn it to you for a question just around not necessarily diversity conceptually, but just what your observation is around ways in which a diverse team yields better outcomes, not better check boxes. So let me pull this up. I'm going to explain the quiz here for folks. I'd call it a quiz, more of a survey. So if you're looking at your screen right now, everybody that's with us, you'll see the 3 questions that we're talking about here that you're also able to join in and go live for if you holler at us in the comment section. But you'll just click in there and be able to submit your answer to the quiz, and we'll try and feed those back through and maybe chat about them, but we'll have them stored for later and they'll be available as part of this presentation. So let me go back to you, Abby, to chat about the importance from an outcomes perspective of having a diverse team.
Sure. I really appreciated something Jonathan said about bringing other people in helps you see maybe where the gaps are and what you're missing, because you don't have the same perspective. So, when we're servicing all different types of companies, our employees, we are pretty diverse. We have, such a variety of people who work for us. We fortunately have always embraced, being odd, being different. One of our company mottos is "Don't be a stranger, just be strange." And just
wait. Now hold on. You're not going to say something like that, and we're not going to dwell on it for just a second. What does "Don't be a stranger, don't be," or just you say it again? I just got it messed up. What does that mean to you? Assuming you can say it.
So I think it's PC for here. So don't be a stranger, just be strange. It's just our way of saying, like, be who you are. And being in the customer service business, and I've been doing this now 14 years, watching the employees who would come through the door we've had every hair color, even for 10, 12 years, piercings, things like that, a place where they could be judged by their customer service and their voice when things in the outside world were changing and they might not get hired somewhere else. We never had an issue with that, right? We listened to their voice. They felt comfortable here and safe here, and people were bonding over customer service, right? Like, didn't look like everyone next to them in a store or face-to-face customer service, right? So we've always been a place where people said, "Oh, phew, you're not going to care about my tattoos," or, I want piercing and things like that. So, and we embrace the weird. We like to have fun. We think it's very much in our culture to, if we're going to do it anyway, and it can be fun, and you can have some sense of humor about it, then you should do it. It's like a why not? It's an easy why not, right? So we do believe in that anyway. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I like that. Now, I'm curious, you as the CEO get to you don't set the culture. I know the people make the culture, but why was it important to you to have this "Don't be a stranger, just be strange" motto? Because you weren't always a huge you've got what, 300 employees now? There was a time where that wasn't the case, and you were thinking about what is the kind of organization that I want to lead. What is it that you, if I'm asking this correctly, kind of what was the seed of the value that you saw in setting the tone early with that kind of a motto?
I think we actually always have been open. I think that's fortunately always been accepting of all types, tried to do like whatever we can to encourage people to speak up. I mean, that isn't something that we went through a change and then morphed into that. So that's been really helpful. I think because there's so many different processes going on and you have to empower people to speak up because, one person's on a call here on one account, one person's on a call here on another account. People have to be able to speak up and bring things to your attention so that you can catch things quickly and make improvements. So it's not that it wasn't sort of a decision at one point, let's make a change and let's let everyone express themselves. I think we also have we've been a group of younger people almost growing up together in this company too and entering the workforce. Really 14 years ago, I remember coming into the workforce and there was a much starker separation even between personal and work. I remember starting work and not wanting anyone to know anything about my personal life, cutting those conversations off, thinking that that's how I had to be. And that, I don't ask, you don't know how old I am, you don't know what I do, I don't need to know about you. And that, I think people were just so desperate to express themselves all the time and feeling that we evolved with the world. I think that's been a change that I've noticed in all organizations. You are your whole person. And when you show up as your whole person, then better things happen, right? Like we had businesses that were pretending to not be serving people, right? People are the ones making decisions at other companies. People thought of businesses, and I think technology has enabled us to be more transparent. So we're seeing this more.
Yeah.
People thought of businesses as machines, as boxes. Like I love telling the new hires this analogy of, I didn't go to Staples and pick up this business off the shelf and say, here, like we're real people here who are creating it as we go. And you're real people and our customers are people. So if you're a real person and you're sitting there, everyone has a stressor. Everyone has someone they're accountable to. We need to why not carry that all the way through? Like, why are we faking this? Just be who you are. And I think, getting so to tie back to, why it's helpful to have diversity. I mean, any other insight we can get that helps us understand what is the commonality and what we should be providing? What is the strongest element of customer service that is going to transcend this will make us be more successful.
Well,
so
I love it.
Hear that in a better way.
I love it. Well, I'm gonna. Eric asked a great question in the chat on the side, and so Eric, I'm kind of telegraphing the fact that I'm about to bring you in here live to put us on the spot with that question. I'm going to end the quiz so that we get this full frame in front of us. But Eric, my finger is on my cursor and it's clicking live right now. So go ahead and ask that question about mental health in this transition period.
Sure. Yeah.
Hey, welcome, Eric. You sound great. You look great.
I do what I can, man. I'm wearing shorts. No, I'm kidding. And you've done a great job moderating, by the way. It's been really fun to kind of listen to everything. So good job.
Now, Eric, if we could just take a moment, could you unpack that last comment a little bit more? Like, kind of really.
If you could just kind of move in slow motion, it would enhance everything that's happening.
No, so your question that you asked in the chat, if you wouldn't mind repeating that.
Yeah, it's just how do you keep, because obviously like goals and everything have changed and we're working through a virtual world, right? So in my world, it's like 100% sales. So you kind of have to, like all the activities that lead to things. I mean, I was even thinking about like Ernest was talking about 3 months of all of these things that were about to happen. Everything changes. And you're dealing with people virtually, so you can't take their temperature face to face. How do you deal with that how do you take people's temperature when you can't see them? Everything's virtual. What kind of rules do you implement to make sure they're okay?
Yeah, I'll say, Abby, we kind of put you on the spot for a while. So Jonathan, if you wouldn't mind chiming in on that one first.
Ooh, as soon as you asked that question, Eric, my mind began to think about all of the folk I need to check on as well. So I'm like, oh, there's some people to follow up with. But I'll say this: I am incredibly thankful for, our CEO at Theorem and how intentional he's been about putting in place structures that, organically allow folk to connect. Like, so I don't have to seek it out. It's seeking me out. So it makes that process a lot easier. He also has been great about communicating out, thinking about here's where things stand. These are resources available to you. So, and it's not just hey, I sent out an email back in March and I send that same email out, every month. We've got a weekly, let's call it, town hall, where it's every week, and there's always a point in that town hall where these are the resources available to you. Like, do you need to talk to a counselor? Do you need to do this? Do you need someone to come over and give you a hug? Like, there's this whole list of things. And, I got to say, knowing that that's available to me has provided a great deal of comfort. The challenge is, a lot of working from home, it makes it hard to separate, like, when you're not working and to re-engage your life. And so these tools that I think my company has done a good job of reaching out to their people with have done an amazing job of helping me break that, because naturally I'm not good at that. And I think naturally many of the people I work with are good at that. We're a nomadic company, so we attract people who like to, hey, yeah, I decided to live in Belize for the next 3 months, or I'm in the Ukraine, and I kid you not, these are the conversations I have. And all of a sudden, you have a global organization, Eric, that no longer can do those things they love. Mm-hmm. And I think the company, because we're in this together, and they created all of these forums to pull in feedback, it's made a big deal, and it's made a great impact on it. I think those are some of the things that, like, we're doing. I think those are the things that we have to keep doing, and to be willing to be a bit more vulnerable. We're doing some really weird, like, happy hours like everyone is doing, but ours are very structured, so they're paying people to come and do talk shows over our happy hour. And like,
now have you had the goat thing? Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you heard the people?
One of the Zoom, I've done one with the goat.
You've had a goat? Oh my gosh!
It is the best thing in the world. So
yeah. You pay a farm or like a petting zoo. These highly tactile places like a petting zoo are pivoting, and they're allowing you to rent their animals to be seen on your web conference. So you can like have your whole staff there, and as an icebreaker or whatnot. I mean, Jonathan, you can explain it because you've done it. I've never done it. Imagining like you've got there's a goat on the camera. There you go.
Yeah, and the goat is hanging out, and I've tried to. There's such a backlog now because it's gotten so popular. Early days, I had a goat in one of my sessions, and it takes all the tension away from all the challenges around life. So no, I highly recommend it. Eric, I hope those are some thoughts that are at least helpful to speak to the comments you brought up.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thanks a lot, Eric. And I don't want to, Abby, not give you the opportunity to chime in on some of that, just around how you think through the mental health and checking in and kind of doing a temperature check, if you will, of your employees, if this is an increased period of geographic distance from one another, if there are things you've proactively done.
Sure. Well, I think at first they're just surveyed out, right? So we've probably done too many surveys and polls. But one thing is, my HR director did let me deliver wine to people's doorsteps. So I think
I would take it. Yeah, I would take wine over a goat any day of the week.
Yeah. So we check in, we do Slack, we try and think about what they're going through and help with resources. We have employee assistance programs. We remind them, about mental health, and we give them tips. Like, a lot of emails were going out for me at first saying, like, you may be working from home, but we really encourage you to act still. You're going to work, get dressed, take breaks. We've adjusted schedules. I think there is a whole different structure of at-home work that a lot of us are just getting to the point where we're realizing we are going to be in this for the long haul. And I think adjustments are happening now. I'm seeing that right now. We're doing, because at first it was the change, right? Anytime there's a change, people have a lot of energy. And then things start to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You get fatigue.
And we're in the ANSI phase, I think, right now. And so we're doing more with co-working on video just temporarily. We're trying to set a different expectation. Like, we don't say you should work 8 hours a day. I'm saying, like, please try to work 6.5, 7 hours a day, right? We're trying to really emphasize we want you to have a life and understand that they'll produce better in those times. We're not like asking for specific schedules either. We're saying what's going to work best for you for the people who can be flexible if they're not scheduled. And again, like the jumping into video sessions. And I think it's a work in progress.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Eric, tell it just real quick. I feel like we did you a disservice. What is it that you do real quick?
No, I run a multifamily office, and that sounds like very complex, but we do legal, tax, investments, and P&C and personal insurance for people. You don't have to do it all, but a lot of our stuff is outsourced. We just recently signed up with Abby's company, and they've been great through a lot of this too.
Thank you.
And it's just really kind of keeping to. We've communicated more this last 3-month period of time than ever before. And we've delivered some wine to some people, which has been very helpful. But I've found there was Zoom fatigue at first because they're like, well, this is going to end. Yeah. We're going to be over it. But like texting, blogging, calling, and then some video chats and kind of, mixing it up. And I'm definitely looking to this goat war. I think Sunny said there's fish available too. I might do a full on Zoom, which might be kind of fun. But really, I could talk about the markets for forever, but I honestly think it's more the personal connection than anything else that people really want right now, and knowing that they're going to just be okay. So it's been good.
I love it. Well, thank you for making a personal connection with us, Eric. I'm gonna turn you off live, but you've been fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, y'all, we have a little bit of time left, and I'd like to just sit for a second and allow you each just to fast forward to next year at this time. I know people have put you on the spot about this before. You've had this conversation with your friends, but just do you have an idea in your head about what you are practically preparing for within your respective domains for what your work life will be like in summer 2021? And I'm gonna start with you, Abby, because Jonathan, it looks lost deep in thought, and whatever's happening up there is too good to interrupt. I want to give that pot a little more time to simmer.
Yeah.
So
my kids always tell me my face gives me away, so I've got no poker face here.
Yeah. So Abby, take us to summer 2021. What are you thinking about for your company and how you're going to need to be operating then?
Good question. I'm like wondering what's happening next week, but
I'll tell you what. Let me give you. We've got 3 minutes. I'll give you 60 seconds of my own answer to that, just out of fairness, so that you can do that. So I, in my primary right, operate a brick and mortar, very much in person, small retail and coffee shop, built on this idea of creating an environment that people are in. That went out the window in March. And so when I'm thinking about summer 2021 in a world in which there's not a vaccine yet, and I'm thinking, will I be able to have people in this physical space or not? And the things that we're bracing for are putting in place a number of in-person practices around Instagram live conversations, and potentially replacing our front door so that it can be a walk-up window instead of just a front door, and just putting together contingency plans for a world in which maybe people don't come inside our store until 2022. Is this a place where we turn it into a warehouse in the back and just do pickup at Site C for local businesses? Anyway, that's the kind of stuff that goes through the mind of somebody that needs the general public to come inside a small space and spend money. And having gotten that out of the way, what's on your mind, Abby?
I think I feel fortunate we haven't had to change from a physical location where customers were coming in very often, and can even imagine like all the new protocols and things to go through for a lot of business owners right now. For us, we know we just need to keep investing in these, how to make remote work as seamless as possible. How are we going to engage people and keep morale up? Because it's going to be the norm and not exciting anymore, fun, always for the new thing. And I think that really it's always being prepared and not ever taking things for granted. We have always had to be very open to change and okay with change and changing quickly, because there's just so many processes that go on in here. And it was, at first nice to be able to say to the team, all those times I drove you crazy with giving you a new project here and changing something here. Well, you're used to it. So a lot of people in the world are freaking out, and this is pretty normal for you. Like, everything's changing tomorrow. And I was like, look, I've been breaking you in. So I think that'll just continue, that attitude that, everything's a work in progress. We'll do the best we can and keep going.
I love it. And I'm just, for the sake of time, quickly switch it to you, Jonathan. And you really don't have much time, but I want to hear it.
No, I'm giving 20 seconds. It is moved incredibly fast. Like, I'm super excited and hopeful about summer 2021. So you project out a year. I'm thinking that everyone is going to be excited to begin to say, okay, now that we are beginning to truly have an idea of where things are going to begin to open, how do we get there? How do we position ourselves? And I can see working with my customers on helping them solve those challenges. Like, I know you will be, so I'm excited about that.
I love it. Y'all, I seriously just want to keep talking to you guys, but we're going to have to cut it off so there's not an awkward end. Thank you so much to both of you.